more on the TVET aspect and its integration into special need education. And my personal experience, how I started teaching and how I get into the TVET dimension in the special education, my purpose and method of this paper and findings and discussion and conclusion. So let me begin. So TVET and its connection with special need education. As we see that, like school-based TVET has a very crucial role in a life of person with disability. Definitely, like a normal person, so-called normal person, let's say. So we all need to have a very skillful, like knowledgeable life with a good attitudeful life. We talk about these dimensions. But a person with a disability, they also have a right to live a very happy life, fulfilling life, acquiring lots of skills. But lots of research has said that lots of barriers for the person with disability to have the proper, to have the skills and acquire knowledge, to be in the proper workforce. So
I got from your presentation that you have studied how engineering has the curriculum inclusion of the TVET program.
Yes.
Is it so?
Yes.
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 So in engineering there is a full course in environmental engineering, and it's I don't know about your country, but in India it's a compulsory course for everyone whosoever studied engineering. That is the environmental engineering is there, and there they learn all these curricular provisions. And that
because in TVET field we deal with let's say this adult field, and then there are a lot of real life approaches, and then whether we can connect with those stories, poems and paintings, so that is what we call the integrations of arts. So due to the time limit, now the conclusion is that the TVET field is gaining popularities in Nepal, and but if you go to the pedagogical approaches, it looks like we are still following very lecture based, and then very less interactions and only less demonstrations. So if we are able to approach this STEAM approach, and which is a combinations of inquiry based, arts integrations, ICT integrations and design thinking, perhaps STEAM pedagogy would be one of the appropriate or one of the alternative, one of the engaging approach in TVET field. So this is what the argumentation is. These are my references. So thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Right on time. So
for innovation in Tibet, in Europe, is the European Union with its Erasmus Plus program. So, how I do it, okay? No. Yes. I don't want to go into detail, but Erasmus Plus is a big program which is financed by the European Union to support education, training, youth and sport in Europe. The background for that is that the European Union itself is not, it is prohibited for the European Union to intervene in national VET policy. But what they can do is give incentives. So they steer TVET in Europe by publishing recommendations, not legislation, recommendations.
My name is Clyde Caldwell. I'm from Costa Rica. I'm a researcher and professor at the University of Costa Rica. My grandpa was from the United States and his grandpa was from Scotland. That's why I have this sort of weird name for a Latin American standard, right? Okay, I'm going to focus on the results of our research and sort of discuss the theoretical approach that I did, just to keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to talk about the case of Costa Rica, not Latin America. I changed that because time, This presentation is closely related with the research project analysis of formal and non-formal educational offerings and experiences in rural territories, the case of the coastal area of the Bando Punta Arenas and the Silice area of Turrialba. That's one that is inside of the country, and the other one is a coastal fishing and stuff like that related with the sea. And the project tried to understand how the changes in the political project of the country in the last 30, 40 years impact TVET and how it impacted. And
the linkage between the TVET school and the industry is the major aspect to be focused on in apprenticeship program. So I'll be talking about it. I have prepared a few slides.
proceeding ahead, these are the table of content. I'll be introducing about apprenticeship program a bit, and then how it is functioning in the Nepali context, and the social school and work alteration. Similarly, the industry readiness in Lumbini province, and the methodology that I have followed while doing this study, and then findings and the gaps that I have identified, and then conclusion and then further research what can be taken ahead. I'll be talking about this bullets.
Presenters. Actually, you all presented the research, but I'm not going to present research, but it's an innovation. But it is very much aligned. Before moving to my presentation further, I would just like to throw a question. In a system, as you see, like I represent Kathmandu metropolitan city, in a system, when you think about innovation, what is the factor that implants innovation in a system? What do you think?
Commitment of leadership.
Commitment to leadership. Any more? If anyone would like to try. Okay.
The perception of the society.
Perception of society, great. Thank you. Definitely both things are valid, but I would just like to bring in this presentation, particularly in this presentation right now, I'm more aligned to you. However, I totally agree with you as well. Definitely the vision of a leader implants the innovation in a society. At least innovation starts in the system.
As researchers, we went to the world of work, and where different philosophers, different researchers, they have developed such kind of space for the students. For example, Glacier 1984 talked about competence can be acquired. Therefore, we need to engage our students in entrepreneurial orientation, and such courses are to be designed and implemented in the system. Likewise, Bandura also advocates that entrepreneurs have agencies, network. Without network and agency, they do not work in isolation. Therefore, there has to have agency-related informations to be imparted to them. Then after, Cope also highlights that cognitive development is necessary for understanding various choices. I think students who are enrolled in certain program, they do not confine to a certain program. They will go beyond different choices or the varieties they have within an
skills and knowledge systems. Okay, whether the Tibet has been actually valuing these aspects or not. Okay, so we need to have a question. So, 5 minutes. Okay, yeah, I'll finish. So, indigenous technologies that we have. Okay, so these body of knowledge, and you see indigenous technologies, and then arts, cultural arts and artifacts. Okay, and then indigenous musical instruments or ornaments and occupations. You see that in Himalayan region, most people they depend on this agro-pastoralism. Okay, so also the many indigenous peoples have a kind of wood panning practices, traditional forms of occupations. Okay,
so that is why the result would be very low. So in this way, my conclusion is that now we need to reorient the policy of technical education in our community school. So reorientation is necessary. So reorientation, how is it possible? How to reorient? How to revisit the policy? So I suggest, so a policy need to be revisited, reoriented in terms of these things are considering all these aspects. Context means a policy should be contextual. the performance is very low because policy might not be contextualized because now we have federal setup in our country. So,
and we are two here, two others are there. Is there, standing. We have monitor. And this is entitled The Notion of STEM Education for Transformative Teaching, Vocational Education and Training. It's my own experience engaging there as a friend with the researcher, with the PhD scholar, Mr. Indraman Shrestha. Here you can see 4 peoples in front of Tullu municipality. I guess you can see the name of this, municipality from there, but we are in front of local government, and we were there as a field visit of his PhD journal, PhD thesis, and we interacted. There was a school that will come in my slide, and we interact with their.
And I will present the research as my needs. All my research participated. I will present the key findings and within this study. Moving on, first, this I want to talk a bit about migrants. Mostly, if we try to understand the traditional definition of migrants, they are called as mover. If someone moves from one place to another, and they are called migrants, and it is fully stick to territory, or it talks about geography, and if people move from one place to another within or outside the country, they used to call migrants.
Therefore, projects, I said so-called. Let's discuss about this. And the problem during my PhD thesis, what I found is that the connection of school education with different kind of many vocational subjects like agriculture and the community forest. While I have actually indicated here agriculture and community forestry, these are the locally available resources that the community people get work out there from my region. So, this is a kind of proposal. What can be done there? I have actually finished more or less one cycle of participating research. From that, what I have collected as data and interpreted that I am going to present today. Together with me, there is Bajendra Mittal, my supervisor, and as well as Parvali Lumana has also gone with me during my first visit. That's why she was there. Now here, so Nepal is so-called
better solutions like we engage in the employment opportunities, like linking to the labor market. So most probably they in their mind the concept that dual-rate apprentices. So what is like dual-rate apprentices, and how can we link with our programs like intro to the labor market, but could be the other ways. So I can get dedicated job, and I can get my motivated ourselves, and also place ourselves in a very good place. So we have like gone through the research of factors associated with benefits. So what might be the benefits they join the dual-rate apprenticeship in Nepal? Like especially we have gone through the Viratnagar. So I can take. So as we have got like four, we have like listed to 4. So in chapter 1 will be like introducing our research. So that is the factors.
9 political regions, and then you're having a lot of rural areas. For those girls to join TVET, some TVET they are not centralized, they are not decentralized, and then it's hard for them to go there. Transition to employment and tracking and monitoring. Those are the challenges, and the recommendation in the Namibian context, recommendation to engage actionable steps to drive change by strengthening curriculum content, establishing mentorship program, and fostering industry partnership. Because there again, when girls graduated from TVET, when it comes to employment, they are not given chances. Because if, for example, automotive, they just take a boy instead of a girl. Still there, we need also to have industry partnership, building inclusive learning space, offering financial support, and engaging community in imperative. And I come to conclusion that it is clear that empowering girls through TVET is not only a matter of social justice, but
construct a meaningful understanding of conceptual, theoretical, and practical knowledge and skills to foster the learners' entrepreneurial skills. And that means higher level abilities, higher level community abilities. And first of all, I designed the project and piloted by myself. It is success or not. Then I recorded all the sessions for making as this record as materials to my participants. And then I conducted research at my workplace. Typically, undergraduate students, I selected 8 prospective science teachers purposely. And in implementing phase, I honestly followed design thinking approach 5 steps. It is non-linear process because learning is not just in a straight row approach. It is a more iterative, it is a more cyclical process. So I followed the design thinking approach. It helps to engage the learners in hands-on and minds-on activities.
And it has been an occupation of many countries, like in Nepal, in your country. It is one of the spreading means to tourism development in Nigeria. Nigeria's studies shows that. And in Bangladesh, it exports 40 to 50 countries. And that is 2021. It might have been increased. And it is eco-friendly industry. You can say that as a sustainable, eco-friendly industry. And it reduces migration and help foreign export. It is in Nepal also we are exporting lots of ceramics in different countries. And it's not only livelihood. In the past, it used to be have livelihood of the traditional Prajapati family in Nepal, especially. And it has been now entrepreneurship of many Prajapati families in Nepal. And there is a very high demand of device ceramics in Nepal. The purpose of the study is to explore the porters' lived experiences in the integration of technology in their immediate occupation.
It's guaranteed education. Normally, people right now, they have this automatic promotions like they from grade 6 to 7 and they come. And they have so many difficulties. They stay at home and helping their parents and giving money, but it's broke. And at the time that they leave the school, they don't have the ordinary certificate. General certificate of education or level. So this program actually was implemented in 2020 because the team wanted to give some opportunity because every person is unique and has different talents. So to use these talents, develop a program.
So this is the economic and environmental. And also nowadays, like if you see that developing countries, they are more focused into developing skillful people rather than having university graduates. Just in the morning, I was present in one of the presentations, and these are like in Switzerland, like 70% are the TVET graduates. So developing countries are realizing that we need to focus more on the technical education than the university graduates. Similarly, those with low population and without skillful human resources, they are importing skilled human resources to their countries, like GCC countries,
and many of our Nepali workers are going there. So, to build skillful people, quality-TVET education is very important, and which helps to develop a positive learning environment. And also, according to UNESCO definition, by quality-TVET education, it means that
who can follow the vocational education. One is the 13 years of education. Those who have failed ordinary level exam, they can move to the 13 years of education. Those who have passed O-level exam, they can select the A-level technology education stream. So it is very vital component, and the examination of A-level, O-level exam, they have to pass and they have to get 6 S's, including maths and science. So actually they need 3 C's, credit passes. So we assume these are very qualified to learn this advanced technical knowledge. So there are 3 options. I mean, they have to follow 3 subjects. The first one is science for technology. This one is a little bit advanced. Maths, physics, chemistry, biology, ICT application is there. Then the 2 subjects they have to select in the option 2, biosystem technology and engineering.
The people over the human rights, the people have become very emotional, and sometimes we found that the problem is created in the educational institutions. And in this context, the TVET, where there are a large number of people from a diverse background, the diversity is seen with respect to the culture, family and education. So, the teachers, especially the head teachers, find it very difficult and tough to handle the situation. And in this context, the pioneer of ethical study started in 1991 proposed that to handle the several kind of dilemmas and problems in the education institutions, the ethics is the best way. And he proposed 3 paradigms of ethics: ethics of justice, ethics of critique, and ethics of care. By implementing these paradigms of ethics.
So around here, yes, I mean, of course, I do agree. So I took some statistics that was from Labor Force Survey of Nepal, and in the cities, in the market, like seeing women working, that's very common. Yeah. But like if you go further in the rural areas, so they are mostly engaged in subsistence farming, and not directly in income related occupations. And I think I presented here the barriers. So there are different barriers for them to access TVET programs. So usually they are given less priority. Especially in investment in education and career. So social norms factors and these gender stereotypical, these occupations that are not female, not for female. So I mean, we're not perpetuating, but giving them options and opportunities. And if there are opportunities, and if they are interested, we need to motivate them, we need to encourage them, and then also provide opportunities. But we should not impose them. That's a different thing. So that's what I would like to say.
What are the survival strategies which have been already proven by our past generations, and how it has been a very important skill for, and also I'm focusing on the economic prosperity to that, because as Sir was telling, when we do not take pride in our work, we do not understand the economic value also, because we tend to overlook the things in surface level. As we said, in the first presenter also told that we tend to consider this as a very low class job, or the kind of education which is only for the people who are illiterate, or they do not have anything else to do, so therefore they go to vocational. I want to just clarify that this is not the case, and
achieved some milestone into some of addressing some of those challenges. I spoke about financial problems. We now have a VAT levy, we collect VAT levy that meant to fund some of the programs. But the main problem in the country is that the capacity building of the TVET trainer still remains a challenge. So I wanted you to help me with that.
Put it to slide more.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Small piece of cake with me to just show you that this aspect is how important for TVETs, because you make the person and you just throw him in the field, and he has a long work life, and in work life you have a bad boss, you have a good boss, right? You can have a bad co-worker, you have a good co-worker, right? So there's a lot of things you face every day, which is very petty things, but it makes you so stressful. And when you become stressful, you are not ready to work efficiently. You will not be productive as you should be, no matter how good you have trained. I'm sorry to say that training is not suitable. If I am a professor, I'm XYZ and I am so intellectual and I have all knowledge in my mind, but I could not communicate you. So I'm sorry, I'm zero. So that's why I bring a small glimpse that how organizations, when they have employees, and employees have a different personal, individual, human factors into them, and that could destroy their place, their productivity, their efficiency, right? And that's why I said we should see that aspect. So right now I'm talking about few variables which are negative variables. I specifically choose some negative variables, which is if you found in your employee or a worker or a professional, he is going to be inefficient.
It's a paucity of data. It is very difficult to trace those people, those who migrate across border. We have people come to Nepal, they work the day and they go back. It is like that, but the data is I don't.
But is there some provision to address such kind of employment opportunity onto the vocational to the overall aspect of India's vocational sector, or like it is just bypassed, like there is no touch at all? Just wanted to know that.
Well, since I am working on this secondary data, I don't have that detail but certain micro-specific studies may be studied when it comes to this kind of migration and occupational.
Definition here, but this figure is defining everything about the TVET, if I mean, because people with no any skill or no any knowledge enter into the TVET, and who comes out with the skill, what he is interested to or what he is going through, that can be defined as the TVET. That is just represented by this figure.
A few other concepts. The concept of allegory, symbolic representation of a person, that means. The idea of building, that is self-cultivation, complicated conversation, that is a conversation between the person and the surrounding, the person in the curriculum, the person in the curriculum system, I mean the education system. And it is a critic of the surrounding as well as a critic of one's own, let's say, efforts and growth. So these are the points which are required to be always striking us, the beginners. And I remember being held for 6 months before being sent to the higher class. I did not start undergraduate teaching. I started intermediate only, because I had to wait for 6 months to see the seniors teaching in the undergraduate level, the skilled students, basically engineering and science students. So these classes were not for the fresh university graduates like me. So I had to wait for 6 months learning from my seniors. And this is from one of the students I met, was very good at doing, carrying out projects, but very bad at communication skills. He would do very well in the project, but fail or get very low grade because he could not present. So there I realized the value of presentation skills, soft skills, basically English, to the engineering students. And most were from private boarding schools, but a few who came from government schools had a very hard time in an English medium institution like this, and we had a greater responsibility for these kinds of people, these kinds of students. Yeah. Okay, now this statement is from one very old British lady who came to Zurich Hospital and was given a responsibility to teach English in the nursing classes. She was about 75 years old, and she invited me to a class to help her make podcasts in 2009. So I realized then that, okay, English was very important, taken to be very important for the nursing people. Otherwise, I was thinking it's simply one of the syllabuses they would simply complete and never take care of. And the exposures I got from the university. I've tried to position myself in these three different kinds of, let's say, exposures I got. And if somebody tells a story about similar incidents, maybe it's not going to be very different, because we started in the same kind of environment and had a similar type of struggle. One of them is a professor in the School of Education now, my senior, who told me to wait for 6 months. Another is an acting dean in the School of Arts. So the beginning, that founding group of English teachers has now diverged at the different schools. But if we begin to tell the stories, we have the same. But I have tried to see how different mine each, because I try to diversify to communication and rhetoric in my formal training.
Other, related to oxygen vegetables, mushrooms, they are producing this vegetable product, and they sell this product to local market, and they earn money.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Yeah.
Nepal. But what are the educational issues that we have been facing in terms of education, Tibet education? So we have actually experienced this content loaded and the Tibet curriculum, which has been focusing on theoretical knowledge rather than practical aspect and the skill that actually society and community or the real world demands. And we see innovation in pedagogical aspects. So we generally see inside the classroom and the activities that teachers are doing, they are monotonous and that actually students lose focus in getting the access to the knowledge, and similarly they are not able to able to develop the skills.
So Nepal is famous for its tourism activities, and tourism has been recognized as a major economic sector. And among tourism, homestay. I think everybody knows homestay. What is homestay? This is the accommodation system that every individual household accepts the guests as their home. So this is homestay, and nowadays globally homestay is very famous, and in Nepal also we started from 1997. So it has been almost 26 years. So it has been long, but the question is,
there's some certain barriers that doesn't allow the females to work in this teen careers, which are the one that pays you the most, right? So within the labor place, they're higher value in terms of outcomes, but there is few females there. And in Chile, as many other countries as well, when you go to a secondary school, you can choose to go to the TVET track, or you can go to the academic track. And we are particularly interested in what's called the applied STEAM programs, which is electricity, metalworking, information technology, chemistry, and so on. That's what we call STEAM within the TVET track. Okay. And about 40% of total students in higher education in Chile choose the TVET track, and of those, only 17% are women that choose the STEAM track. Okay. So definitely we don't have enough women
I care about because I think we're losing talent, and it's just not because it's not a problem only that females are less likely for many reasons like society expectations, stuff like that, but we're also losing talent in the labor market.
Basically, we all are known about the Tibet as a center of the development agenda, even in the SDG 4 and SDG 8 also. However, there are lots of challenges we are facing regarding to the Tibet. One, the demographic shift, and then economic globalization is also effect on the Tibet, and similarly widespread unemployment and then the use of the internet also. Parallelly, the cross-disciplinary technology integration, rapid change of the market demand, generational gap is another challenge that we are facing in the Tibet sector. And finally, the resource management. As you just said, that the adequate resources to the Tibet sector is quite challenging, even in the developing countries, developed countries as well. However, the sustainable financing is a key issue. Based on this, now my presentation is focusing here. For the methodology, I reviewed the literature related to the Tibet financing, approaches of financing, fiscal federalism, similarly intergovernmental fiscal transfer as well. Quantitative methods have been used for this. Data, I'm taking the data from the Line Minister Budget Information System from Minister of Finance. Basically, only concentrated on the mobbing financing to the Tibet sector. Data sorting based on the Tibet activity, then identify the source of funding, and then data analysis and presentation made in graph and chart only here.
Very, very interesting study for you as well. Thank you very much. My presentation will carry out on challenging the competencies for the labor market for Tibet and apprenticeship in the New West Africa. In introduction, education systems should be linked to employment system in order to promote youth employment. And many researchers has support this by stating that the coordination and control process of both education system and employment system should not be only based on curriculum planning, but also on learning content, governance, and the implementation and outcome measurement. In case of Benin, we can see here, when we take the three forms of education, we can see that how the number of students is in school. In general school, we can see 940,000 students in 2014, and then we compare this to Tibet enrollment to 22,000. And that's not all. In apprenticeship, the number of apprenticeship is very huge.
I think Nepal is competing with Serbia with regard to who is faster to bring the new program through. It has a lot to do with this new institutional framework and with the way how all policymakers start to address that this is the goal, this is the vision, this is what we want to have. You can, to your question, Indonesia, I guess, or Vietnam, who start to switch from one program to the other.
In dual instructors, and 19 persons are enrolled because they are 3 years, and Indians are 2 years, so they have not been anyone graduated yet. But the agreements with the companies, we have that INA has 10 agreements with different companies by 2022, but to the date, 2023, they have more than 50 agreements for the next year to implement new programs. For MEC, it's difficult to make these agreements, so they only have 7 agreements signed for 2022. And then for training processes, we have trained 48 people, mentors.
For this research is also contributing to research on VET reform implementation. Unfortunately, literature on VET and education reform implementation is very flawed. What we have noticed is that there is no clear development over time, and there is a clear bias across organizations as well as different countries. We observe a very clear country-level biases, silos, which means that research and researchers from low and middle income countries are just excluded from the progress that is being done. We also observe a very fragmented field. There is little to no knowledge exchange, and at the end, there is also a lack of the meta-analysis that covers the entire field. Here I'd like to go into a bit more detail into a paper that has been done from one of our colleagues and Professor Eno at our chair. They created a determinant framework based on 177 studies.
Developed research context on vocational training and has focused on wage defects and employment defects. And in study in Benin, the determinants of the probability of being employed have been identified with the traditional variable without taking into account the vocational education, which is an important pillar in the national strategy to combat youth employment or underemployment in Benin.
Program on graduates and companies. So, I think in this room I don't have to introduce TVET too much, but just for a couple of, well, less than a minute, let's say. What we know more and more now, and what we have heard, particularly in the keynotes this morning, or the presentation from Ursula Reynolds, but also from Stephen Billett, is that vocational education with workplace learning, what I'm going to call dual TVET in this presentation, is really important. It's the most desirable VET option for students and for companies. Because students with dual TVET have better labour market outcomes than those who undertake school-based VET only, and some of our colleagues from ETH have shown this in a causal analysis in a paper a couple of years ago. Dual VET is best placed to provide the skills mix that the labour market demands, which is positive for the student but also for the company that is going to employ them later on. And with all that in mind, we analysed the Ensure 24-month apprenticeship, which is a dual VET pilot project here in Nepal, from the student and from the company's perspective.
Theory and bonding materials, discipline of parts and construction, and interactive assembly, disassembly, interactive operational simulation, instructional demonstration of video, interactive formative assessment, summative quiz.
As a learned labor, now the perspective has come that they have no participation in the job markets, like they have no skills in the formal economy, and so aligned with the align the TVET program, so this community can empower themselves through the TVET, and they can adapt learning skills to change their social status using the TVET.
Some of the points, like in 2017, the World Bank has approved $16 million to the Nepal, which is, I think, that's a really huge money. Enhance the TVET sector for to meet the development of the skilled employees in the labor market. And besides that, the survey conducted by the Accountability Initiative Private Limited in 2015, it states that out of all 2009 TVET graduates, 982 were unemployed and the rest 5% working as volunteers.